First, let's head out to Granham, Alberta. That's where the restoration continues now on this year's SST feature vehicle, a 71 GTX that has now reached the reassembly stage with Josh and Terry LeVar of Investment Vehicle Restorations.
There are a lot of big days throughout the entire restoration of a car. Many of the days are just menial and you got your head down working, but there are a few days that stand out, and one of them is the day you bring the car in and start taking it apart. So aside from a few minor little things, the car is basically going to go back together in the exact opposite order that it came apart. And when you pull the car in, start taking it apart, safety first, you drop the gas tank. Then we start at the front of the car, disassembling it in stages as we go all the way to the back once the car is completely apart. And it's the exact opposite when you're putting it back together. You're going to pull the car in and we put the gas tank in first to get it out of the way. And then we can work around it, putting all the sub-assemblies in after, and we start at the back and go all the way to the front. So most people, when they're restoring a car, they are fearful of the dash. And the dash is one of those sub-assemblies that can be very overwhelming when you start looking at it and start taking it apart. There are so many little intricate details and so many little pieces and wires and whatnot and all that stuff that can kind of put you off wanting to do that part of the car. But for me personally, I take a great pride in doing the dash because I have a knack for those little details. And at the end of the day, the way I look at it is that's what you're staring at every time you drive the car. So the best thing is to make it perfect, and that's one of my favorite parts of doing the car. The day that the car goes into the paint booth to have the paint being started on it is a really big day in the restoration because that's the turning point. All the days prior to that, you're banging away at metal and dust and dirt and everything is messy, and that's all the work that you're doing is grinding and messy. And once it's painted, everything takes a shift, and now everything after that point is going to be nice and clean and pristine. One of the most important days in the restoration of a car to me is the day that the drivetrain gets to go in. The motor, transmission, and front suspension, and the car gets set down on all four wheels. Because up until this point, all you've been staring at the whole time is this great big gaping hole in the front of the car. No matter how much work you've done to the rest of the car getting it all together, there's still that huge hole in the front. And the day that that gets filled with the heart and soul of this car is the day that everything starts to take shape, and you're only a matter of hours of work away from actually being able to take it out and drive it. Once the drivetrain is in, it's time to start putting on the front sheet metal. After that, it's just a few trim pieces and we're basically done. When I say basically done, I mean that the car is pretty much ready to take out and drive. Everything's on it and it's all ready to go. But because we plan to compete with this car, we have a couple hundred hours ahead of us of fidgeting with little details, making them good enough so that we know they will pass the judge's inspection.